My name is Brian Abbott, and I'm the founder of 310antiques.com. Let's go back to the American Civil War for a moment. Both of these pictures were made in that era, probably a little prior, probably 1850s, Civil War being from 1861 to 65. One of these pictures was made in New York City, and one of these pictures was made in Mobile, Alabama. And they're both roughly the same size, both roughly the same weight. They're contemporary to one another. They're from the same era. They have sort of the same decoration, although there's a slight difference. This has a round pedestal foot, and this has some applied circular foot on it. It's a little different, a little open work. But value, what makes one more valuable than the other? In this circumstance, silver from the North during the war isn't too terribly uncommon. It's actually a fairly common period of American silver from the, let's say, the 1830s through the 1860s. There's a lot of it out there. But what was happening in the South during the Civil War? Well, they were being starved for resources of every kind, and in order to fund the war effort, as often happens, or certainly happened in the past, the government needs more cash, and they need to increase taxes, or they will actually come up and start confiscating things. And you also have the problem of people hiding family silver during wartime, that kind of thing. Anyway, net result, Southern silver, Southern antebellum silver is as a rule quite rare, and I would say easily 10 times as rare as its northern counterpart. And in some cases, much more so than that, depending on the region. I think that some things in Kentucky, for instance, that are sort of from the frontier, from the late 18th century, early 19th century, those things can be particularly scarce because there was such a small population in the area. And then you follow up with war and what that does to the, to silver, heirlooms and gold heirlooms, that kind of thing. So essentially what we end up with was the North was never really sacked, and the North was resource rich, and so, most of the silver made in the North survived the war, but the South famously was resource poor and had to import a lot of the resources from overseas, from Europe or what have you, and therefore they needed money, and a lot of family silver was melted and turned in order to pay for the war effort. This picture here was made by James Conning of Mobile, Alabama. It's a quite rare water pitcher. It probably has a value of let's say $6,000 to $10,000. That's a pretty broad range, but I think it's a good range. It just depends on the day you're having an auction or what have you. So $6,000 to $10,000 on that. It's New York contemporary by Ball Black of New York City. Is something that will probably sell for $800 to $1,200. This particular piece and the condition it's in, all things considered. Nothing too exciting about the decoration. So what did we learn here today? Keep a book with you that explains what silversmiths worked in the South versus the North, and if you pick a piece of silver up and you realize it's a Southern silversmith, well, you're probably onto something. You probably got a good find.